Hello, all you wonderful first graders from Mrs. White's class in New Jersey. It's me again, Mrs. Banker. This will be the last time I get to read a story to you all, which makes me sad. Summer's coming. School is out in Virginia right now. It's already out, but we start school long before you do. So that's why we get out a little bit earlier. But summer activities are starting. It's getting a little more fun down here. We actually could go to a swimming pool last week. So those things will be happening for you too soon. If you remember, we were reading a Frog and Toad book called Days with Frog and Toad, and it had different chapters, little stories in it. So I'm going to finish the book today and then talk about friendship. Think about how Frog and Toad are good friends and how they are different. You can be different from your good friends. This chapter is called Shivers. It says, "The night was cold and dark. Listen to the wind howling in the trees," said Frog. "What a fine time for a ghost story." Do you think Toad would like a ghost story? I'm not so sure Toad would like a ghost story. Toad moved deeper into his chair. What does that tell you? Toad asked Frog, "Don't you like to be scared? Don't you like to feel the shivers?" "I'm not so sure," said Toad. Frog made a fresh pot of tea. He sat down and began the story. He's going to start the story anyway. "When I was small," said Frog, "my mother and father and I went out for a picnic. On the way home, we lost our way. My mother was worried. 'We must get home,' she said. 'We do not want to meet the old dark frog.' 'Who is that?' I asked. 'A terrible ghost,' said my father. 'He comes out at night and eats little frog children for supper.'" Toad sipped his tea. He's thinking. "Frog," he asked, "are you making this up?" "Maybe yes and maybe no," said Frog. "My mother and father went to search for a path," said Frog. "They told me to wait until they came back. I sat under a chair and waited. The woods became dark. I was afraid. Then I saw two huge eyes. It was the old dark frog. He was standing near me." There's little Frog and the big old dark frog. Frog asked Toad, "Did this really happen?" "Maybe it did and maybe it didn't," said Frog. Frog went on with the story. The dark frog pulled a jump rope out of his pocket. "I'm not hungry now," said the dark frog. "I have eaten too many tasty frog children. But after I jump rope 100 times, I will be hungry again. Then I will eat you." Then Toad sinking deeper in his chair. The dark frog tied one end of a rope to a tree. "Turn for me," he shouted. I turned the rope for the dark frog. He jumped 20 times. "I'm beginning to get hungry," said the dark frog. He jumped 50 times. "I'm getting hungrier," said the dark frog. He jumped 90 times. "I am very hungry now," said the dark frog. "What happened then?" asked Toad. "I had to save my own life," said Frog. "I ran around and around the tree with the rope I tied up the old dark frog. He roared and he screamed, and I ran away fast. I found my mother and father," said Frog, "and we came safely home." "Frog," asked Toad, "was that a true story?" What do you think he's going to say? "Maybe it was and maybe it wasn't," said Frog. Frog and Toad sat close by the fire. They were scared. The teacups shook in their hands. They were having the shivers. It was a good, warm feeling. Toad did okay with that story after all. You ever had the shivers? Not the cold shivers, the scary shivers. The next story is called The Hat. On Toad's birthday, Frog gave him a hat, and Toad was delighted. "Happy birthday," said Frog. Toad put on the hat. It fell down over his eyes. "I'm sorry," said Frog. "That hat is much too big for you. I'll give you something else." "No," said Toad. "This hat is your present to me, and I like it. I will wear it the way it is." Can you see? Can he see? Frog and Toad went for a walk, and Toad tripped over a rock. He bumped into a tree. He fell into a hole. "Frog," said Toad, "I can't see anything. I will not be able to wear your beautiful present. This is a sad birthday for me." Frog and Toad were sad for a while. Then Frog said, "Toad, here's what you must do. Tonight when you go to bed, you must think, some very big thoughts. Those big thoughts will make your head grow larger. In the morning, your new hat may fit. What a good idea, said Frog. Do you think that would happen? Could that happen? That night when Toad went to bed, he thought the biggest thoughts that he could ever think. Toad thought about giant sunflowers. He thought about tall oak trees. He thought about high mountains covered with snow. Those were big thoughts. Then Toad fell asleep. Frog came into Toad's house. He came in quietly. He found the hat and took it to his house. Frog poured some water on the hat. He put the hat in a warm place to dry. It began to shrink. The hat grew smaller and smaller. Frog went back to Toad's house. Toad was still fast asleep. Frog put the hat back on the hook where he found it. When Toad woke up in the morning, he put the hat on his head. It was just the right size. Toad ran to Frog's house. Frog, Frog, he cried, all those big thoughts have made my head much larger. Now I can wear your present. Frog and Toad went for a walk. Toad did not trip over a rock. He did not bump into a tree. He did not fall in a hole. It turned out to be a very pleasant day after Toad's birthday. If only that could work when we gave people something that was too big or too small. And our last little story is interesting, and it's called Alone. Toad went to Frog's house. He found a note on the door. The note said, Dear Toad, I am not at home. I went out. I want to be alone. Alone? Said Toad. Frog has me for a friend. Why does he want to be alone? Toad looked through the windows. He looked in the garden. He did not see Frog. Toad went to the woods. Frog was not there. He went to the meadow. Frog was not there. Toad went down to the river, and there was Frog. He was sitting on an island by himself. Is it okay to be alone when you have a friend? Sure. Poor Frog, said Toad. He must be very sad. I will cheer him up. Toad ran home. He made sandwiches, and he made a pitcher of iced tea. He put everything in a basket. Toad hurried back to the river. Frog, he shouted, it's me. It's your best friend, Toad. Frog was too far out to hear Toad. Toad took off his jacket and waved it like a flag. Toad was too far away to see. Toad shouted and waved, but it was no use. Frog sat on the island. He did not see or hear Toad. Excuse me. A turtle swam by. Toad climbed on the turtle's back. Turtle, said Toad, carry me to the island. Frog is there, and he wants to be alone. Now think about that. If Frog wants to be alone, said the turtle, why don't you leave him alone? Maybe you're right, said Toad. Maybe Frog doesn't want to see me. Maybe he doesn't want to be my friend anymore. Yes, maybe, said the turtle, as they went to the island. Do you think that's it? Does he not want to be his friend? Or is it okay to have some alone time? Frog, cried Toad, I'm sorry for all the dumb things I do. I'm sorry for all the silly things I say. Please be my friend again. Toad slipped off the turtle with a splash. He fell in the water. Frog pulled Toad up onto the island. Toad looked in the basket. The sandwiches were wet. The pitcher of iced tea was empty. Our lunch is spoiled, said Toad. I made it for you, Frog, so that you would be happy. But Toad, said Frog, I am happy. I'm very happy. This morning when I woke up, I felt good because the sun was shining. I felt good because I was a frog. And I felt good because I have you for a friend. I wanted to be alone. I wanted to think about how fine everything is. Think about that, what he's saying. If we could all sit still sometimes and think about all the good things happening. Oh, said Toad, I guess that's a very good reason for wanting to be alone. Now, said Frog, I will be glad not to be alone. Let's eat lunch. Frog and Toad stayed on the island all afternoon. They ate wet sandwiches without iced tea. They were two close friends sitting alone together. Isn't that interesting? Cool, isn't it? There's lots of stories about friendship, lots of picture books about friendship. I have lots of picture books here that I'm looking at that I'm going to be reading this summer. But Friendship is interesting because you don't have to be exactly like your friend to be a good friend, do you? And I want to show you something that I did. Mrs. White told me she taught you all about Venn diagrams. And they are ways to compare two things, aren't they? You could compare fruits, or you could compare ball games, or you could compare trees or animals. Well, I did a Venn diagram to compare Mrs. White with me because we're friends. Not only is she my daughter, but she's my friend. Now remember, you make two large circles and you make them overlap, so there's a space in the middle about the ways you're alike. And on the sides are the ways you're different. And I bet you know some of these things. So Mrs. White loves, elephants. Guess what? Her mom loves giraffes. Mrs. White likes a pool, and I like the beach. Mrs. White loves her Orioles baseball team, and I like the Nationals baseball team. Mrs. White loves pears. I like apples. Mrs. White's favorite color is yellow. My favorite color is blue. Of course, she lives in New Jersey and I live in Virginia. She loves baseball. I love football. She went to college in Ohio. I went to college in Connecticut. So that's ways we are very different, but we're alike as well. She loves teaching first grade, and so did I. She likes to read, and so do I. She loved to cross stitch. We both like to travel. We both like to play golf. We love to bake, and we love our family. You could make a Venn diagram about one of your good friends. You'd be surprised at how much you're alike and how much you're different. Think about that. Don't forget this summer to read as much as you can, even in the summer. I found a little cartoon in my newspaper yesterday that said, reading gives us some place to go when we have to stay where we are. I don't have to go any place. I can sit here but still be in the zoo or in a jungle, or I can be in Italy with a picture book. I can be anywhere that my books are taking me. So try to remember to do that and tell Mrs. White when you come back in the fall all the places you were with your books. I will miss reading to you. Have a wonderful summer. We love you all. Take care.
Hello, I'm the cameraman. I'm also Mrs. White's father. And I want to wish you all a happy and great summer. Did you know that I grew up at the Jersey Shore?
That's right.
And did you know Mrs. White spent many days visiting the Jersey Shore?
Yes, she did.
When you get a chance, ask her about some of her favorite memories of the Jersey Shore. And I hope you all get a chance to go to the Jersey Shore. Have a great summer.
Bye-bye.